Inquiries at callumgreaves@gmail.com.
Because I know Callum's email off the top of my head for some weird reason. I know it's not that.
He Snapchats me every time I get an email.
Wait, are we talking about journalism or Piers Morgan?
It's Morgan, even though he's a massive prick. Just
Understand, because they've all got very strong left-wing opinions.
Filthy communist.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Vocals from the Locals. I am joined with Liam.
Morning.
Luke.
Hello, everyone.
Callum.
Aye, aye.
And last but not least, Mr. Maciej.
You right, boys?
All right, I'd just like to start us off, boys. Well, there's been one thing dominating the news, and it's a certain Mr. Dominic Cummings. But is he Dominic Cummings or is he Dominic Goins? No one knows anymore. No one.
Here we go.
No one knows. Is
anyone? Can you boys actually explain what's happened to me? Because I'm not actually know. I've heard his name. I've seen it in the news, whatnot, but I don't actually know what's happened.
He's just been a massive tool, mate. He went up to Durham and stayed with his mum and dad in Durham, even through lockdown.
Oh, I can't be having that.
So what? In all fairness, the only thing I respect him for in all that is that, you know, those the videos of him walking out his gaff to his car, isn't there? And he walks out of his gaff and he's stood in his driveway and he's going, "Well, you're not social distancing," to all the camera crew that are stood literally right next to each other.
You know what? I've got to respect people like that, because imagine if you've got a gaff and loads of people came outside your gaff with loads of cameras and that.
I hate paparazzi with a passion.
Me so
I just in general,
paparazzi, the scum of the earth.
Yeah.
How bad's that though? How
they all walk about in
gaff,
3/4 length denim shorts and a gilet, taking pictures of
I hope
that, James.
I hope my mum's mate, who's a paparazzi, doesn't watch the podcast.
Oh,
I find that highly unlikely.
No, yeah, it's very unlikely.
So,
who's she a pat for, if you don't mind me asking?
What?
Who's she a pat for?
Oh, it's a he.
Why is
I don't know, it's for a paper, but he's pat Tyson Fury, Madeleine McCann's case in Portugal, so on.
That's saying Madeleine McCann. I was like, get a bit of money for that, wouldn't he?
Yeah. That's a story for another day.
Yeah. I thought you were going to next week to find out the truth about the Madeleine McCann case. Now, the main thing that I thought was strange is he just seemed to waffle. Has everyone seen his statement? Has anyone seen it?
I don't see
it. He essentially, it was written out, and he's essentially just made an excuse for every little thing that happened about his kid. He got out of the car and went for a walk in the woods because his kid needed the toilet. The whole family don't get out of the car and go for an half an hour walk in the woods when little Jimmy needs a wee. But there was the weirdest thing. Well, there's two I'd like to touch on. The first thing was how he said he wasn't sure because he obviously had symptoms and his eyesight was affected. And he went, "Oh, I wasn't sure if I was fit to drive back to number 10 in London from Durham." So he went on a half-hour drive to a nearby town, Barnard Castle. Nice place. I've got family there. And
of course you fucking do.
I do. I've got family.
I know, it's just those James Tarpey family plays I've heard of around.
Sort
of castle in Durham.
She's not related to me, but she's from Nottingham. But yeah, so he's gone for an half an hour drive to test his eyesight to see if he's fit to drive, and then drove home.
Some of the stuff on Twitter about that has been fucking amazing.
Yeah, it is good, isn't it?
As the token driver of the five of us, you can barely drive at the best of times, never mind with bad eyesight, so I don't know how he's driven 30 minutes without going into the back of a lorry.
Probably because it's all just a lie and he went for a drive to Barnard Castle. But the other thing was, so he's Boris Johnson's right-hand man. Is that correct? I'm not 100%. Is that what he is?
Yeah.
He's his main advisor, isn't he?
Yeah.
There's no way he didn't tell Boris that he's going to Durham for a few days. There's no. Imagine if you just didn't turn up to work. You went, "Oh, to your boss, I went to Durham for a few days." I didn't tell my boss, but he didn't mind. I'm aware Boris was ill, but I don't think that he would have not been able to tell him as his like right hand man. I think it's all just a load of rubbish.
He's
It's a
taking
shambles,
advantage of his power, hasn't he?
Yeah.
It's just no one else in the
What-
country can do it. And then I'm pretty sure it was another Scottish minister that did it. She went to a holiday home and she was forced to that.
Oh, I hope you're all enjoying someone breathing down the mic as much as I am.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Who is it? Maciej, is it you?
Of course it's Maciej.
Nah, never.
Ruining my point there, actually.
Go on, carry on about your Scottish.
What?
So there was this,
go on.
I think it was a Scottish minister, some woman, and she went to a holiday home and she was forced to resign. But as soon as it's one of Boris's top boys, he's not been forced to resign.
Oh yeah, I forgot about her.
This is why he's come out online, because if he admits it, he's got to go. So he has no. If he doesn't want to go, obviously, I don't know if I believe any bit, but there's obviously conspiracies that like he's too close to the source and he knows too much to go.
Can I just say also?
Having watched House of Cards, I understand how that goes.
Can I just say also? I find it interesting how even like they've even lost the Daily Mail in this whole thing. Like not even the Daily Mail were backing him, which I found interesting.
Yeah,
to see,
they'll back him through austerity, Grenfell, cuts, and everything. And drive to Durham. That's where Daily Mail cut the line.
That's the line.
That's what I mean.
Nothing to do with.
It doesn't make sense.
They don't want to keep the Syrian refugees, do they? The Daily Mail, but
No.
they're not happy with the drive up north.
That's funny, that. It's just one of them, isn't it? It's like how everyone's seeing it. It's like Boris is just giving the rule for other people, and then you're all right.
Yeah.
One rule for one person, another for the next. So
yeah, I seen another tweet where it saw the difference between the media, how they treated this, and cases with Syrian people, and they said like, isn't it mad how it's okay when you're white that he acted in his family's interest, but not when the Syrian refugees were doing it. Like the look, if you look back to when that was going on, the look on it in the media was very different. They were like,
"What do you mean?"
Like everyone's saying, "Oh, this Dominic Cummings, he did what he had to do as being a good family man." It's also very big coming from Boris. Can I just ask?
Mm-hmm.
Got about 15 kids.
Unofficially.
Top shagger, mate. Top shagger.
15 kids and 16 baby mums.
Yeah, he finds a way. It's strange, man. All right, we'll touch back on things of this topic later on. I'd like to take us to this week's record. It's by my favourite band, the 1975. It's called Notes on a Conditional Form. Shall I start us off with what I think?
I think you should.
Shall I start us off? All right.
Yeah.
So, all right, that'll do.
Oh God.
So, I've been looking forward to this album since the last one came. It's been a long time coming. The first single came out just before Reading and Leeds, which was 9 months ago. And it's
it was on the night. It was midway during thingy, wasn't it?
It was on the Thursday night at 7
on
it was the Thursday on Annie Mac's Hottest Record. Because I remember being at Leeds, and I was obviously Leeds Fest Thursday night. You get in an interesting state. I just remember hearing that song for the first time in my tent. Like, I have no idea what's going on here. That's not what I thought that song was
Thursday night
like.
on the last episode where we talked about our festival.
Make sure you watch it now if you haven't. So it finally came out. I had very high expectations. Loved all the singles. So listened to it early on the leak. Didn't feel guilty because I think, you know what? I've been to several tour dates. I've got a T-shirt and I've bought the album. If I want to listen to this album 3 days early, I'm going to bloody listen to it 3 days early.
Sounds like you're trying to justify doing the wrong thing there.
I am trying to justify it, and I don't think it's wrong.
Bastard.
Just because he's got a T-shirt and the album, Jesus.
James has all the 1975 merchandise.
I do, mate. I do. Some of it's awful though. But
wait, didn't they release a vest? I swear they released a vest.
Yeah, like a Union Jack vest.
Oh, you've definitely got that, you James, haven't you?
No, I didn't.
Callum, you get that, you.
Yeah, you would.
Covering your chest up.
So the album, it's very long-winded. It's 22 tracks, hour and 20 minutes. But obviously, I've probably listened to it about 10 times all the way through the last 5 days, something like that. And what?
I listened to it half an hour before we started.
I've got nothing better to do at the minute, mate. So it starts off, obviously, first track, you've got Greta. And Greta on its own it's a bit long-winded. Should have been 2 minutes long, but message is important, so I'll allow it.
No, mate, it shouldn't have been in a music album, but carry on.
Exactly, lad.
I'll save my views for later.
But works well into people. They sort of go well as a pair. You can't deny that.
I'll back that, yeah.
And then, obviously, now I just like to talk about, there's about 4 or 5 instrumental tracks. Some of them really good on their own, but I think, obviously going off on a bit of a tangent, there's a difference between a good single and a good song. I think those instrumentals, they're not there to be listened to on their own, but they work in the context of the album, which is, I think, what they're going for. In a weird way, I don't know how many of you have listened to it in full. Callum, you will have. It's the closest thing I've listened to a modern day White album, in the sense that.
Dare.
Disrespect.
Hear me out.
Bad bastard.
Hear me out. The White Album, hour and a half long, a lot of weird stuff on it. It's a blank cover, so there's no theme, there's no imagery. It's just a load of different ideas that shouldn't work together, but do.
You know what I do?
Yeah,
really?
but a blank colour that, really relates to the luminous yellow of the 1975 Notes on a Conditional phone cover.
Listen.
Cringing in their grave.
That's the old cover, but they had to give it to Spotify and iTunes ages ago. The new cover is just brown, and it says the 1975 Notes on a Conditional form along the top.
I quite like that. That's pretty cool.
I can go get it if you don't believe me, but
it's fine.
Okay, thank you, mate.
I don't not believe you, mate.
Yeah. So, all right, as the album goes further down, my favourite tracks, lyrically, playing on my mind, is some of the best lyrics the band have done. Stuff like, I think there's a lyric, I won't buy clothes online because I'm worried about the fit, but that rule don't apply concerning my relationships, which I think is interesting to think about because it's kind of true. So other than that, I'd say my favourite musically as a whole, probably Having No Head, just because it's a proper, interesting, different direction for the band. And I don't know, it's just a tune. And there's obviously stuff like Frail State of Mind, which is my most listened to on it, which is sort of a garagey style song about social anxiety and stuff. And then there's just one called Guys at the end, which is just about loving the boys, which is just nice. I think
I read that, to be fair.
It's the perfect album to have in lockdown because it's almost... It's meant to be listened to almost like watching a film. It's a sit down and dig into it experience. And it should be listened to actively and not passively. And
wait, what do you mean by that?
So
quite self-explanatory.
Not just having it on in the background. Just actually
listening. Let's compare it to watching a film. You can passively watch a film, which is where you sit there on your phone talking while it's on. Or you can actively sit and watch it. Whereas
that's exactly what I see the album as, to be fair, but yeah, go on.
No, but my point, but if you listen to it actively, it's the same with the film. You get a lot more from it. It's it's like if you talk,
right, okay, fair enough.
if you watch a film and you talk the whole time, and don't pay close attention, and you say at the end, "Oh, I didn't like it." Well, you didn't really watch it, so I'm not surprised. I'm not saying you've done that.
To be fair, I hate it when someone does that, so I can kind of understand
exactly.
that part. But yeah, go on.
So James, overall, what are you giving it out of 10 then?
10.
10. Right, okay.
It's quite possibly, obviously early impressions, it's quite possibly my favourite album ever. But I'm not sure.
Right. I'd like to butt in with a bit of a contrasting viewpoint here, if that's all right.
No, it's
Obviously,
I think everyone's viewpoint would be contrasted in this situation
Yeah,
to James.
yeah.
I'll be very
So,
honest, but yeah, go on.
you've heard the opinion of our token 1975 fan.
the
I mean, if we just look at this, right, this album, it's by one of the most like controversial artists of our generation. You know, it's like they're either loved or hated, and that's why personally I think this album, KSI Dissimulation, is not very good. Oh wait, we're on about. Oh sorry, I've just read the notes. We're on about notes on a conditional form. Sorry, boys.
Fuck's sake. Someone was gonna fucking drop it, wasn't they?
I mean, in its lead up, I listened to most of the singles when they came out, and I really enjoyed People. I think that's one of the best. I'd say that's my favourite song that they've ever put out, People. Obviously, I can't say I've listened to all the music, but personal preference. And I'm a guilty pleasure for that. If you're too shy, let me know. I have to admit. At first, I thought, no, I don't like this, but yeah, it's just a bit of a guilty one. But apart from that, I mean, I feel like it's a lot of it was just wasting my time when I was listening to it. I think because I was just sitting there like, why is there so many instrumentals? It might flow well, but it's like it's not really what I want to listen to. I definitely don't want to put on a playlist. And if the first thing that came on, if I put on a playlist was a Greta Thunberg speech, I'd be bored out of my mind after 3.5 minutes. So I just personally think that, I don't know, it seemed like it was just full of fillers because they couldn't be bothered. But
obviously, can I just make a side point to that? Obviously, said about shuffling a playlist and putting when Greta coming on. This is what I mean about that's not what that song's for. That song, it makes sense in the context of the record, but nowhere else.
Yeah.
Right, yeah,
I mean?
I can understand that, but personally, I don't know.
Yeah.
Even if I put the record on and that just came on, I just think, right, hurry up, let me listen to music.
Yeah.
So, and I think the only other standout track, apart from them two, I'd have to say personally, I did enjoy Roadkill, which is obviously a controversial topic, like track that we'll get onto. But as an actual song, minus in the start, I did enjoy it as a song.
It's a good tune.
Overall, out of 10, I think it's really, if I'm judging it on what I've given other albums, it's struggling to get past a 5.
First.
That's my opinion. And I know, obviously, we see it on Twitter 17 times a day that Maciej over here also is not a fan of the 1975. So go on, tell us.
Right, so with this one, it was just a bit weird. It didn't sound like the 1975, which I know is a weird thing to say, but it just didn't. Like going from the very first track, you know, with the whole Greta Thunberg nonsense. And I do understand James's point about it going into people.
I think nonsense is harsh.
I really
Climate
don't think it is,
change.
but
I don't like it.
Whatever.
So,
okay.
Yeah,
look, no, I can respect what she's done. I can respect that it got attention, but I don't know. I feel like he's just clinching at something. Do you know what I mean? For like relevance or something along those lines. But what I will say is, what I will say is that whole Greta thing, it does go well into people because James, you were showing me how it's what does she say again? And now it's time to rebel, and then people literally kicks in. I do like that part. I'm not gonna lie. But apart
People's
from that,
just a general response to Greta. It's sort of a reactionary sort of track.
What I will say though, like the album's been developed in about 17 different studios. Am I right in saying that?
Something like that, largely done on tour. Yeah.
It doesn't sound like it. I thought it just sounded a bit sloppy. And I'm not a music critic. I'm merely just a lad who like what music he likes. But the only song I could actually enjoy was what's it called, the techno one, Shiny Collarbone. That was the only one that kind of stood out for me. I'll be really honest. And apart from that, I don't know. Roadkill, I do. Right, Roadkill's an interesting one for a few reasons. I'm not sure whether I want to get into that on this podcast.
We should get onto it after everyone's given their opinion.
We'll get onto it after.
Yeah, no worries. Well, personally, I'm with Liam on this one. I'd give it a 5, and I think I'm being generous.
Am I right to go next?
So
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I'd like to hear Callum's opinion, to be honest.
Right, so I've got a few opinions on this. I like 1975 as a band, and I do disagree with Maciej. It does sound like the 1975 in some parts of the album, I think.
I'm not sure they have a sound, though, because I think it changes more than any other band.
It does change, but when I think of 1975, there's a particular sound that I think of. I can't quite explain what it is, but it's definitely a sound. But
very electric.
Yeah, it's like electro pop type stuff, if that makes sense. But first off, I don't think that Greta Thunberg needed to be in there, to be completely honest. If you're going to make a political statement in an album, make it an actual song like Bob Dylan used to do. Don't just slap an instrumental over a bloody speech. It had no place being in there. They're not... It's just not the place for it. People aren't buying the album to hear a little girl speak about bloody climate change. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I agree.
But
I think people have to be given an important message like that somewhere that they're not looking for it.
Well, yeah, but no one really cares.
Because no one's going to click an article about it or click a news story about it.
I guess.
But a band that's relevant in pop music, part of an album, oh, look, there's an important message on the front. That's the way I see it. I can see why people think it's annoying.
No, I mean, that is all well and good, but I agree with Callum, like, they should have made it as a song.
Like, if they wanted to make a statement, make it lyrically good for a tune and you sing it. Don't get...
They should have had Greta singing on People, Screamo Greta track. That'd have sold.
I think Fatboy Slim did more for the culture when he sampled in Greta Thunberg saying "right here, right now" over his tune.
That was brilliant.
That was banging, personally.
That was brilliant.
In it. I love
anyway,
that,
we're not on about Fatboy Slim. Carry on.
Sadly,
so, other than that, I get what James is talking about with the instrumentals as well in between tunes. It's quite a good touch, but I just think it makes the album a bit too lengthy. I'd never buy the record purely because of that reason. But I'd only ever listen to it on Spotify. For that.
James, can I ask, is it put onto 4 sides, so 2 discs?
Yeah, it is, because off the top of my head, I'm not fully sure. I think on a side of a vinyl disc, you get 22 minutes.
So it's a double press album then?
Yeah.
Right, it's not too bad then. But yeah, I just think the instrumentals aren't really needed. Like, it gives a good record, but I don't know.
Any standout tracks?
Standout tracks. I'd have to go with it. Is it You and Me Together song?
Me and You Together song. It's like a 90s rom-com theme song, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it.
I like it.
People, if You're Too Shy and Guys, I think they're
Guys is quality.
They're best tunes off there. But I think, I don't know, I'd struggle to give it anything more than a 6. Purely because some of the inconveniences on the album, I don't know, it just puts me off it a little bit. So
now, on top of our opinions, we've all said that we don't like them. There is a man in here who despises them. Now, feel free to take it away, Luke Smith.
See, do you know what? Like, obviously, I think you sort of know what's coming here. It's not going to be anything, too generous. I think in my life, I've only purposely put on 2 1975 tunes, like thinking, do you know what I listen to this? And one of them is Love Me, which obviously isn't off this album anyway, and the second one's People. So People, I really enjoy, and I think Maciej said it before that that Greta thing, even though I think it's a fucking waste of time. Well, I think it's a waste of 5 minutes, but I get what you mean when you say obviously it's a message that needs to be sort of sent across. But I think I like it how it sort of transitions from that to People. But apart from People, the whole album was just a waste of fucking time for me. I didn't really want to put it on and listen to it. I did, and it was just a very unenjoyable experience. I just really don't get I couldn't ever get into anything like that myself, I don't think, because I just thought it was absolutely wank. But I feel like that's been a bit harsh in it, but I really don't like him in it.
Honesty is key, Luke. That's the thing. Honesty is key.
So yeah, there's not much really I can say. I just didn't enjoy any of the tunes apart from People, but People I really enjoyed. So obviously that's my standout track, and for like, how much I enjoyed People, I'll probably give it a 2 out of 10.
2 out of 10.
It'd probably been like
lowest rating.
sub 1 if it weren't for People, because I just think it's bollocks.
I just say, right, come full circle. That's almost very representative of the album, because I've seen a 5-star review and I've seen a 1-star review. NME.
Yeah, it was. I saw a 1-star review of it.
Independent.
Was it independent?
I can I just say I absolutely hated the fact that Pitchfork rated it the same rating as what other people say I am, and what was the other one? Doggerel had the same rating.
It's better than Doggerel.
It is not better than Doggerel.
Controversial.
You can shove that right up your ass.
I like the 1975.
I'm not having that.
Doggerel.
Honestly, the main thing I'd say about it, first listen, I thought I was really disappointed with it, but it's grown on me massively. And I can just go back. You can listen to like 6 songs on one bit and then 6 songs on the other bit, and it'll feel like a separate album.
For that, it's sort of like Tranquility by Arctic Monkeys.
In a sense.
Rolls in it.
Yeah. The more you put in, the more you'll get out. And they're usually my favourite kind of albums.
Because I hated Tranquility when it first came out, but now I love it, so you never know.
No one was ready for it.
So you never know. My opinions probably change, but at the moment...
Opinions are all my own. Inquiries at callumgreaves@gmail.com.
That's not his actual email. Don't email that email.
Well, for all the fans out there that are trying to get in contact with us.
Because I know Callum's email off the top of my head for some weird reason. I know it's not that.
I've got Callum's email on my phone. Yeah.
He's telling me what he Snapchats me every time I get an email.
Yeah. Right, well...
Right, that wraps that up, boys. We'll be back in just a minute where we talk about current news affairs and the state of journalism as a whole. Cheers, bye. Okay, welcome back to part 2 of the podcast. Now, we were talking about notes on a conditional form in the first half, and I'd like to, obviously we touched upon it, but people have some views. Obviously, it's been very controversial on a new song called Roadkill. There's a controversial lyric. I don't know, Liam has some opinions on this.
He's also eating jelly. So
Maciej, you've got some stuff to say.
Yeah, go on, Maciej. You can start.
Go on.
While Liam finishes his jelly, go on, Maciej.
Yeah, Maciej, considering you wrote a full tweet to it and started arguments with 1975 Twitter, take it away.
Not even 1975 Twitter, all Twitter, mate. You done well.
Can I just say, it wasn't even 1975 Twitter. Like, it was like...
It was SJW.
It was Live TR Twitter.
Half the people were my mates. Half the people my mates, which I didn't understand. Well, I mean, I do understand because they've all got very strong left-wing opinions. But no, I wouldn't. Oh, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I just think, I don't know. Me personally,
sometimes.
Me personally, I'm skewed to the left, but I wouldn't say, I'm closer to the middle. You know what I mean? I'm not.
Filthy communist.
I'm not. Oh mate, I hate.
That's 1975 anyway, guys.
Red's out the country, lad. Red's out the country.
But I'm going to stand by what I said on Twitter. I just think, in the same context that, like, let's say someone called me that, and I said to one of you, "Oh yeah, by the way," haha, funny. I'm not digging the hole. I'm not digging the hole.
But we've not even said what tune it's in, have we?
Yeah, no,
it's in Roadkill.
We'll just
Roadkill. No, we did say Roadkill.
For anyone who doesn't know, Matty Healing singer may have said a homophobic slur. We all know the word. We're not going to repeat it because we don't that's not who we are. It was only obviously in one of the songs. It's been controversial. Carry on, Maciej.
To be fair, man, the point that I do want to make is I was standing up for the right to be said. I never said that I personally would do it. I never said I personally would go down that lane. I don't know. I just thought, in my opinion, it's an overreaction. And in my opinion, there's been worse stuff said by other people that's, you know, not got as much stick, I'd say.
It's a bit of a...
And, you know, and what I do want to say, this is coming from me. I don't particularly like 1975. I really don't like Matt Healy. I think he's a stuck-up asshole. But in this sense, it's free speech. I've got nothing against it.
See, it's a bit of a sticky situation there, actually. Because I don't think it's a freedom of speech issue. I just think it's people being too sensitive. It's obviously me being a straight man. I can't really talk about the word that he said because I don't think it should be said in any way. However, I think most of the gay community that are intelligent enough to understand it wasn't being used as a derogatory way of offending them would understand that it is in context and it was a thing to describe something that happened to him.
Who gives you the right to tell people of a different group to you whether they should be offended or not?
I'm not saying that they shouldn't be offended, but I'm just saying that I even said that. I said I'm not obliged to say whether it should be offensive to them because I'm a straight male, but I think most people would stand by the fact that it was in context.
Yeah, I think obviously a bit of a tangent. It's just a general rule, not as a direct application of this. People have a right to be offended, but people also have a right to not care that you're offended by something because it's personal. Offensive.
Yeah, exactly. Being offended.
People get offended when something directly
Can I just,
by
the way, can I just say I wasn't actually asking that. I do agree with both of you. I was just saying the most said point by people who would argue with you on Twitter. Like obviously, that was their most common point. Like, who are you to tell people what they can't be offended by? So
I don't think that's a great response to it though, because we're not telling people they can't be offended. We're just telling people to think about the context that he said in.
Yeah.
And the thing is, what I got attacked for, well, I'm not even going to say attacked, it was just I was trying to make a normal debate with people getting annoyed. But
you can't raise for the left though.
No, you really can't. Well, to be fair,
let's bring it back. Let's bring it back.
I mean, to be fair, the only good debate I had on Twitter was one with this one gay lad that pops up, and he actually was quite like, you know, he didn't go in all guns blazing. Yeah, he I forgot what he's called, Corey or something like that. He made some good points. I understood his side. He kind of understood mine. And, you know, I was like, right, fair enough. I can kind of, I can have a decent debate. We can kind of agree on some things, disagree on others, and leave it at that.
You know, like your thingy, you know, like you talk about the context. What was the actual lyric again? I forgot.
So the lyric was,
about going shop, wasn't it?
A man in the gift shop called me and then the word.
Yeah.
So he's recorded an experience that did happen to him. What I'd say is, it's probably, it doesn't offend me, but it's probably not for me to decide whether it's offensive or not. And I don't know. I just think as someone as famous as he is, he should just have left it out.
Yeah,
he just avoided it.
There's no reason for him to really put it in the song, really.
Well, so see, Callum, that's the point that was made. If the whole song was about, you know, gay rights, the LGBT community, it would have made more sense. But what I will say, unlike Hurricane by Bob Dylan, it wasn't necessary to the story. Roadkill's literally just a song. Yeah.
I've not looked into lyrics of the song. It might be relevant to the lyrics.
I've got another thing to add to it though. I know that it's a derogatory term towards gay people, but if he's been subject to that derogatory term,
he's not exactly a masculine guy, is he? He's probably been called a lot of stuff.
Exactly. So I think therefore, because he has been subject to it, he has an understanding of how hurtful the word is.
Yeah, his argument. It was an interview. His argument was like, "That was my experience. Don't try and take it away from me."
Yeah, he may not be gay, but he can still be called the word. It's still offensive to him.
I'm a bit on the fence, me, because I agree with you all there about what you say. You know, it's his experience and that. But at the same time, we can all accept that the 1975 have a very, very impressionable audience.
They do.
I'm not going to be the only one that thinks they have an audience of, say, if we're going to generalise the average 1975 fan, it's going to be like a young teenager in it. Like, and imagine them playing that song live and having 14,000 teenagers scream that word. That's how I think of it. It's like, it's going to put a bad sort of image on the name, and as the biggest argument.
But would people? But you could say, but rappers use the M word all the time, and people don't scream that back.
And they're allowed. They're allowed, but that's the thing. People don't necessarily repeat them. I personally avoid that word when I'm singing a song with
exactly.
it. Like
I don't think it's any different. Yeah.
So do you think at like a 1975 concert then? Do you think if they play that tune, do you think
people wouldn't
sing along, or everyone will
no,
purposely not? Or do you think they want other bottles just playing?
I reckon it'd be 50-50. I reckon some would.
No, it wouldn't. People, nah.
So do you reckon if like say like I was at a 1975 gig, imagine the day and all that, but anyway, for argument's sake, and I like they played that song and I said it. Do you think like a gay person would turn around and start like having a go at me just because I repeated that word?
It depends on the person.
It's person to person. One would, another wouldn't. Then there's the question of if they're offended, would they turn around and say anything anyway?
Yeah.
I think this whole controversy is more subjective than anything. They're not in the right or they're not in the wrong, really. It's just you can't say anything about it, really.
See, the massive thing is, though, it's the fact that who were arguably the biggest band of current time, they shouldn't be saying, no matter the context, the argument is that they shouldn't be saying a word like that in a song. And, all right, like, you've got to agree to an extent, but, like, in the sense of he's showing how he's saying what's happened to him and that's what's been said to him, we've said that. And would the song have had the same effect if he'd have used a more PC word or like a less controversial word? That's the thing. He's saying it to show the emphasis, to show the effect of what was said to him.
At the end of the day, they're allowed to sing about what they want. If that's happened to him, then it's happened.
And it was a good point as well. He said, I think it was the same interview he said about his experience. He said, "You steal my album 3 days before it comes out, then had the cheek to moan to me about it," which I think is sort of a fair point.
Oh, did he say that?
Wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I couldn't find that leak anywhere. I did listen. I did look for it and want to listen to it, but I couldn't find it. All I saw on Twitter, I typed in 1975 leak, and all I saw was people tweeting saying, "Wow, someone's got the 1975 leak." Not anyone actually posting the leak, so I thought I'll give up. I'll just wait.
I could have sent it you. I could have sent you the goods. But what I'd like to take us on to next, because discussed that for a while.
Yeah, go on.
Just obviously on the topic of this, we've been talking about news articles, and obviously Dominic Cummings and stuff like that. But I'd just like to talk about sort of journalism in 2020, how journalism has changed, sort of. But I know Callum is passionate and interested in this topic. So I'd like to ask Callum, what do you think, has it affected the quality of the media and journalism by everything coming online and people deciding it's not something they're willing to pay for anymore?
Oh, old school media is it's obsolete at the moment, to be fair. With everything coming online, there's no reason to buy a newspaper or to invest any money into any form of media. You can get it all over Twitter. But the thing is, media is still relatively...
but that's caused the quality of it to go down, because all they need is you to click on it and you're not willing to pay for it.
If your daily news source is Twitter, then I've got to tell you there's something going wrong there.
Oh, no, I don't use Twitter. I actually watch the news, mate.
Right, good.
But still, media's always been biased, and it always will be. But the thing is, now people can spread their opinions on it.
I think it was Ricky Gervais said it, is the problem is with Twitter is one person's fact is as valuable as another person's opinion.
Exactly.
And that's categorically just false. Fact is worth more than an opinion. You can't argue with a fact, it's a fact.
I think media now has become a lot more dangerous than old media used to be. Society is miles worse off with social media and all new forms of media. The image that media gives to young kids and everything now is plastered everywhere. And I think that's probably one of the main reasons that mental health has risen so high in recent times. Yeah. Because it's everywhere, you can't escape it. So it's lowered the quality, and it's in a way made it a lot more dangerous to the society now.
Yeah, one thing I always think about is sort of a bit of a paradox where I think, would I rather the media be massively privatised as it is, where it's heavily profit driven and you're being told what will get the most buys and clicks and attention, as opposed to a neutral, balanced view that's most informative and interesting, or a more like controlled media? But that's obviously the idea. You're only seeing what they want you to, like the government want you to see. There's obviously pros and cons to both, but I think in the middle, I think one of the best things Britain as a country has come out with is the BBC. Because the
debatable.
Listen to my point. So the BBC, everyone pays for it, right? You pay like 15 quid a year, your TV license. Yeah, so everyone pays for the BBC.
Wow.
You'd be that guy clicking on iPlay. I do have a TV license. No, we're not meant to pay for it, you know.
Yeah, man, I'm a gangster.
But so it's the job of the BBC is to make stuff that's educational and informative as well as interesting. Right? Like you compare BBC, you get your EastEnders, you get The Voice, you get Strictly, but then after Strictly, they'll put on a documentary about cosmology or reptiles and stuff like that. And I think that's good because I think that's stuff that people need to see. Whereas if it's all the other, like for example in America, if you want to watch like a science documentary, you've got to go on the Science Channel. But that doesn't show interest in new stuff to a new audience. It's like even if you compare, like ITV is just trash compared to
show a football game every now and again, so it could be worse.
No, but in terms of like, yeah, precisely. That's could talk about that.
I had a feeling that was coming.
But
what I do want to go just quickly mention the Planet Earth originated there. Like Planet Earth, Blue Planet, all absolutely quality, very informative shows made by our kid David Attenborough.
Yeah, but
ITV or BBC?
BBC. My point is ITV, because their only purpose behind making these programs is getting the big advertising slots and getting as much money as possible, which just the natural way that goes is it's just drivel on it all the time, and you get Piers Morgan, even though he's a massive prick, just because it gets clicks on.
What's he on? Is he on ITV?
Yeah,
he's on ITV. Yeah,
Maciej, you.
Right. Go on, Maciej. You've got something to say about that.
You've got something to say about Piers Morgan, clearly.
No. I personally, I think he's. Do you know what? Wait, are we talking about journalism or Piers Morgan?
Talk about whatever you want to talk about. Talk about the BBC.
I'll go with journalism then. I'll go with journalism as a whole. What I will say about the BBC is, like you mentioned, they don't have advertising, so they're not really asked about racking in, money. They're asked about viewership. Everyone's asked about viewership, but
the primary focus of it is to educate and be interesting and informative.
Which I can understand, but I'll never forgive them for ruining Top Gear. That's just one thing I'll never forgive them for.
Honestly, that's a good point.
Yeah, you can. But did they have a choice? The guy hit someone because he gave him a cold meal.
I mean, if you slapped our manager at cost,
you've got to stand for something. You can't just.
I mean, to be fair, it's 10 times what's it called? Grand Tour and Amazon is absolutely quality in comparison to.
Wait, but the thing is on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire in that, wasn't it, though?
Yeah.
Liam, I was comparing it to the current Top Gear.
Oh, right.
The old Top Gear, nothing compares to the old Top Gear.
I thought you were saying Grand Tour is better than old Top Gear.
No.
Opinion.
No, because the Africa specials, the Christmas specials, I absolutely love.
The South American ones,
they're absolutely banging.
They're brilliant.
But just really, I think yeah, it is. But reeling it back into journalism, it's like you said, James, and Callum, obviously. I don't really know anyone, especially at our age, who's going to bother buying a newspaper. And even now, I noticed. I think it was on. I was trying to look into a news story, and I think it was like the New York Independent or something like that. I clicked on the link, and I started scrolling through, and suddenly I get a pop-up saying, "Would you like to buy this for £1.15?" No, do I heck? I'll find the information somewhere else. Do you know what I mean?
It's like when you're on Wikipedia and it says, "Can you help out?" and send us a quiz. No,
to be fair, some of the newspapers, I think the Telegraph's one, but you have to pay.
Yeah,
it'll show you the first paragraph.
Or like a subscription.
Yeah. I respect that, because as soon as the market decides it's not willing to pay for something, the quality of it naturally goes down.
What? No. I'm not saying I don't respect it. I'm saying it was interesting for me to react that way. Do you know what I mean? Like, that was my initial reaction.
This is what I mean.
Am I really that disbothered about this information to pay £1.15 for it? No, I wasn't.
Yeah, but that would have got you access to loads. That wouldn't have.
It would have given me access to loads, but one part of journalism that I think is on the rise is the format of like Noisy and Vice and like new like kind of up and coming, like the more like youthful side of journalism. Vice is quality. Not a single one of us
like
hasn't
BuzzFeed
watched
and stuff
at least
like
one
that.
Vice doc.
Oh
no,
no,
I hate
BuzzFeed. Don't put BuzzFeed.
I hate
Don't
BuzzFeed.
put BuzzFeed in the same bracket as Vice.
It's the most left.
Vice is next level.
BuzzFeed
is awful.
It's the worst media outlet that you can. It's the most left-leaning thing I've ever seen.
It's not even but the thing is, like, I don't mind the left. What I do mind is the extreme left, just as much as I hate the extreme right. You know.
Same. I fully agree with that, Maciej.
I saw a video of them talking about man spreading and that, and all this feminist rubbish that they've all made up. It's just madness.
Stuff like that gives feminism a bad name, because that's not what feminism is.
No, I would 100% class myself as a feminist, but the actual feminists out there and ruining it for them make me not want to say I'm a feminist because of that reason. Do you know what I mean? It's mad. It's like, I want equal rights, but they just want to mess up men and that. It's mad.
It's like how 1975 Twitter ruined the band. They really do. I hate 75 Twitter as much as I like the band.
Aren't you part of it, though?
I'm not part of 75 Twitter. I wouldn't say that.
Maciej, when I said I'm a feminist, what were you laughing at?
No, we weren't laughing.
I was thinking about the TPD TV episode. Someone, it was it now?
It's Kellis. Someone's wearing like a T-shirt saying feminist on it, and then Kellis is like, "I'm a feminist. I love birds."
Why are you laughing at me then?
No, I trust you'd want to be a feminist if you could like have the choice to be an official one, not like
I'm a male, so it just can't happen. Do you know what I mean? Get slaughtered. I need a shot.
I remember just on the topic of feminism, when I was in year 7, I used to follow a Facebook page called The Meninist. And it was just
I remember.
It was full of middle-aged Yadar posts, like proper Brexit Yadar posts.
Pretty much my fault.
Yeah.
And just little old me in year 7 just found that and thought I'd follow it on. I just thought that was quite funny. That memory's just chugged back. Anyway, whoever it was talking about feminism, feel free to proceed.
What?
How got onto feminism?
Oh, right.
I forgot about this.
Yeah, we were on about journalism.
Let's go back onto journalism.
Let's go back to journalism.
Go on, Maciej.
Because obviously I mentioned I mentioned Vice, I mentioned Noisy, but I'm quite happy that someone mentioned BuzzFeed, just because there are other outlets that I really disagree with. A lot along the lines of like the Lad Bible and stuff like that. It's literally just reported in social media, like viral hits. It's not. I wouldn't call that. Lad Bible's funny, but it's not the same as Vice.
All Lad Bible do is just like repost other people's things and don't give them credit half the time.
Lad Bible's the modern day You've Been Framed.
Good.
You've Been Framed was funny back in the day, though.
You got 200 quid behind it. That's sick.
Oh, James, we've got a good example that one of our mates, they were taking a picture. They live up in Scotland. They were taking a picture on a night out, and Jimmy Carr photo bombed it, and Lad Bible literally snatched it up the next day. So and
Yeah.
I do kind of see that side to it.
Oh, yeah. I know.
But
Same with
that's
Sport
literally all I've
Bible,
got
innit?
to
They
say
do
on
the
my
same
part.
as Lad Bible. Shameless robbery.
Mm.
Food
I mean,
Bible's my favourite one.
If we want to talk about how, like, on the topic of the media, I know we discuss this as something we bring up on the podcast, the disgusting side of the media, such as articles like, I don't even want to say the name, but the Sun, and
Yeah.
I don't even have to say the other newspapers, Daily Mail, so on.
The Sun's the main suspect, though, innit? It's got.
But the sad thing
You
about
can proudly say, didn't they have a 360 million pound losses recently, or something like that?
I think it was 60 million. But I'm
60.
not sure.
I thought 360.
Don't quote me though. That could be wrong. But I know that it was suffering.
Even if you just compare it to scandals like Hillsborough, I know what they did with Ben Stokes. You know, the England cricketer and his family was utterly disgusting. Phone hacking, all that. So it's just the media can be a very, very toxic.
And like as an association, the Sun, obviously the news of the world was the Sun's. It was like a sister organisation, like it's linked but a separate institution. The News of the World, obviously, they were like tapping celebrity phones, and I'm pretty sure they tapped a dead person's phone. It was just loads of like, it was a dead child, and it was all their mums saying like, "Where are you?" and stuff, which is just sick and horrible.
The thing is about media, there's so many passive people in this world that will just believe whatever the media says. And because we've got such left and right-leaning newspapers and media outlets, the country turns into a massive divide in views. And this is how we get the starting up of things like really far-right, not parties, but associations, and far left-leaning associations.
They need to teach this stuff more openly in schools to let people... The main thing they need to teach in schools, right, isn't books or anything. They need to teach... No, they need to, and to teach people to think for themselves and to want to learn more about stuff.
Exactly.
The attitude when you leave school shouldn't be, all right, that's it. I don't have to learn anymore. I'm done learning. Done now. Now I can just start working on my life. It should be, I'm curious. I want to learn more advanced and specific.
I'm going to be brutally honest here. I used to be a very far right leaning person, like all you people in here know. But I used to believe
we do.
I used to believe pretty much most things that were in the media about certain things, and I never really questioned it, and I just thought, that must be true because he said that. And then when I started getting into college, I started thinking for myself. I was like, I've been so stupid here. But that's for most people in the country. They just don't question anything that the media says because it's supposed to be a reputable source.
Yeah.
I think nobody in the country really thinks for themselves.
The one thing I do want to say about that though, your proof that I hate the idea that someone from two different political ideologies can't get along because it's just not true. If there's a will, if in my opinion, if there's a will, there's a way. You know what I mean? Like I don't particularly like. All you know that I'm not able to vote for a few reasons, but I can still
because you don't pay for TV price.
yeah, that's the one. But I hate the ideology that you can't get along someone that someone's leaning to the right.
I think it's more. Sorry to slightly butt into you. I think it depends. It's obviously not as simple as whether you're left or right. There's more complicated. Like everyone who's far out, there's different types of stuff. It depends what specifically someone's views are.
Well,
but you can't.
It's not like
someone...
I've become mates with someone in the EDL. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a bit. No, that's not what I'm on about.
No, that's not what I'm on about either. But
I think
there's also the idea you can't just put things aside and say, "Oh, let's not think about politics. Let's leave that as politics because politics isn't trivial."
It should be talked about.
Yeah,
but I think now political stances are so skewed that no one really knows where they stand.
I don't
Do you
know
know what I
where
mean?
to stand.
Exactly.
I don't feel like I've got enough
coming
about
at
it
you.
to stand anywhere.
I was very
I'm
conflicted.
proud centrist because I know
See,
where I stand.
I'm more right
Not left,
wing.
not right. I'm a centrist.
I'm more right wing, but I do agree with the left. But because I'm right wing, I get shit from the left. It's like, why?
See, I
Just
don't agree with that because, in my eyes, if you're someone on the left not liking someone or criticising someone for voting right, and vice versa, you're on the right criticising someone for being left, that in its own way removes the whole concept of democracy. Because you're kind of saying, like, no, you're not allowed to have an opinion different to me.
I don't say you're not
That's
allowed,
what I've
but
noticed.
no one's opinion is above criticism. You've got to be able to back it up.
I know that, but it's beyond
No, but
criticism.
I'm not on about your opinion being criticised. I'm on about someone literally not liking you and because you support
Yeah,
a certain side of the spectrum.
if that's all they know about you and they've based that whole prejudice off you, then obviously that's not right.
See, I'm fine with my opinion being criticised, but some people just completely disregard my point of view just because it's right wing. I don't agree with that.
Yeah,
See, you see it a lot on
can.
Twitter.
Yeah,
You see it a lot on Twitter nowadays with a lot of toxic left supporters, you know, saying the whole, oh, right, if you're anything on the right, don't like you. And it's like, well, it's just not like that simple, is it?
It really isn't that simple. There's a lot more that goes into me being right.
Yeah, I'd say
Liam,
I'm
right.
right. You go.
Liam, you know how you said you're a centrist, which I quite like the idea of. I quite like finding the middle ground in between the two. I think that does have potential to work. It just reminds me of this one quote that I saw. I don't remember exactly whether it was Christopher Hitchens or someone else. It was someone around the centrist ideology, and they mentioned about how I think they said political correctness is just fascism with manners, and like it's no, but it's. And Christopher Hitchens, it might have been Callum. I'm not exactly sure. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure, but he's an atheist as well.
Yeah, I know.
Or he was. He passed. I swear he passed away. Yeah, he passed away a few years ago.
He's a genius, him.
Yeah. Oh, it's the same as Stephen
Richard
Fry,
Dawkins
who
as well.
Yeah, precisely. Funnily enough, Stephen Fry. I'm just going to leave this quote here just to link back to the start. He said, being offended doesn't mean you're right. It's merely a whine. It shouldn't be looked at as something that gives you a right to, have your opinion put as fact over someone else. And see coming from someone that intelligent who just so happens to be, a homosexual, it's kind of like it kind of defeats the idea of like the whole. What I want to say is it kind of defeats the whole idea of like. No, what do you mean?
A homosexual?
How else am I supposed to say it?
I don't know.
I'm just trying to be respectful.
Fair game, mate. Fair game.
But yeah, I don't know. I like smart thinking people. I like people like Jordan B. Peterson. I like that sort of ideology.
He's a geezer. Him. See, I'd love to be central, but there's no good central parties in England.
No, there's not. That's why I can't.
That's the only problem.
I can't say support a party.
I agree with that.
My views are centrist.
I'd consider myself a socialist, but that doesn't mean.
Oh God, get out!
No, I don't think that means take all the rich's money away from them. No. All I want is a properly funded NHS before something like coronavirus happens and they realise it's a necessity, and just a society where people don't need food banks when there's people who are billionaires, especially people like Richard Branson, who is a dick.
He is a
Jeff Bezos, who's about to become a trillionaire.
Richard Branson specifically, I think, is he worth 4 billion, something like that?
He's worth a lot.
And his Virgin, the company, is registered to the Virgin Islands, so he pays £0 in tax, and then has the cheek to ask the government to bail him out when when his business is going bad. Can get to fuck. This is my thing. This is my biggest thing. Anyone who doesn't put into the system and doesn't want to pay their taxes, I've got no time for that whatsoever. People who don't want to pay their fair share.
Can I ask you a question, though, James? Is socialism the actual correct way to get to that goal?
Well, I think we've
why
tried.
It bloody well isn't capitalism, is it?
That's what I'm going to say.
But that doesn't matter. Without a capitalist society, we'd still be on our ass. Economy would fuck up without
Socialism is closer to capitalism than communism. It's just a bit further left. It's where the wealth gap's a bit less. There's less poverty, but there's also less richness. There's still incentive for productivity and economic growth.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
it's a more society for everyone.
Just to put in with my final statement for the podcast, communism doesn't work, and no one can tell me otherwise. I've seen so many people on Twitter saying, "Oh, I'm a communist" and all that. No, you're not. Shut up.
I think I think it's got its pros and cons. It's never been done well before, but that doesn't mean it could never work well.
Of course, it couldn't work.
It couldn't.
Karl Marx is shaking.
Just listen, right? How can we?
It can't be possible.
Maciej, shut up for a second. How can we expect society to function off equal wealth? How would that work?
There's pros and cons. The cons are... Listen. The cons are it slows down productivity and economic growth and things like technological development. But it's whether... Obviously, I'm not saying it's been done right in the past because it hasn't. I'm not that much into it.
It never has
not. But that's just because something's not been done right before doesn't mean it can't be done right in the future.
It'll lead to economic collapse. Everyone will be in the shitter anyway.
And
it's so easy for people to manipulate capitalism as well. Not capitalism, communism as well. So there's always going to be a massive head of communism that doesn't abide by the shared wealth rule.
This is the difference. I'm not pro-communism necessarily. Communism runs for the state. Socialism is a state that runs for the people.
Yeah, I get that.
It's just the wealth gap is smaller. There's a bit more to help the most vulnerable and the poorest.
But at the end of the day, there's always going to be a significant wealth gap. That's just the way society works, regardless of capitalism.
Can I just say, guys, it's a bit off topic, but our mate Luke here hasn't really spoken in a while.
I was going to say, this has been the most confusing fucking 10 minutes of my entire life.
Of who really we are.
No, but Luke,
I'm not going to say Luke's our
stupid
lad, because he's not stupid, but he's a bit slower. He's a bit slower than me.
I've got my own
in the nicest way possible, Luke, have you got any political opinions? Or have you got any opinions on journalism?
Green Party. You know what's Green Party?
I have not a clue whatsoever, mate. I'm the biggest waste of space here, mate. I'll just leave
any opinions on journalism and the media? Because that was a big topic we've talked about.
I like newspapers more than reading it on Twitter. That's about as good as I can give you, mate.
All right, boys.
Page 3 used to be good on the Sun.
Right, before we fall out over communism, I'd like to draw things to a close. And I'd like to ask you this week's question. It's a very simple one, and it divides people. People are very split. I'll start with Callum. Coke or Pepsi?
Oh, does it... Right, can I have... Is it just a bog standard red Coke and a normal blue Pepsi?
330ml. You can...
fat boys.
You can... Yeah. Party time. Party rockers in the house tonight.
Is it just the normal Pepsi and normal Coke?
Yeah, but you can have an opinion on Diet Coke if you want as well. You can.
Diet Coke is awful. It's too bubbly, in my opinion. But I'm going to go with Pepsi. I think it tastes better.
Ooh. Yeah, it's
controversial.
I mean,
more flavor. Okay. Coke's a bit more, I don't know, it lacks flavour for me. Pepsi all the way. Especially Pepsi Max as well. Pepsi Max is the one.
Go on, Luke. You follow him on.
I think it's a tough one. It's not as easy as Coke or Pepsi, because for me, I think can of Pepsi does it for me more than a can of Coke. But bottle of Coke is better than a bottle of Pepsi. Bottle of Pepsis are a bit suspect.
It's a good point, actually.
They're weird, aren't they?
Yeah, I'm not really on it. So I think if I had to choose, it'd probably be Coke, only just because obviously you get.
Like if you could only have one ever
bottles.
again, it'd be Coke.
Yeah, because the glass bottles of Coke are fucking mega.
They are really nice.
That's
I don't know
where
what
I'm after. That takes it for Coke, but yeah.
What about you, Liam?
Well, if we're talking only cans, no other containers.
That's a joke.
There's an OnlyFans joke in there.
Then if it's a can of normal, so just like the bog standard, Coke. If it's diet, then Coke. If it's like the zero, so like, you know, the zero sugar 100% Pepsi Max over Coke Zero. Yeah. And if Coke you give me them six cans and ask me to pick one, I'd pick Pepsi Max all day long. But then it's such a hard question, because if I'm the same as Luke, if you give me two bottles, like a bottle of Coke and a bottle of Pepsi, I'm never in a million years taking a bottle of Pepsi. So it all just depends what's available.
Never even see him do.
It's POBA group, get Pepsi in a bottle.
Yeah. What about you, Maciej?
I mean, I'm just going for classic full fat Coke for the reason. I'm sorry, but I'd never have a JD with Pepsi. It's got to be a JD with Coke.
Anytime you're in a web, I've seen you have a Southern Comfort and Coke in a Weatherspoons many a time.
That's Southern Comfort, though. That's not JD.
It's Pepsi. I don't think I've ever seen you drink JD and Coke either, to be fair.
Actually, I've seen him drink JD and Coke. I've seen him drink it.
Yeah.
I thought you enjoy not actually mix JD and Coke.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah. That's what I mean. Mixing JD and saying that though, the JD and Coke cans, the ready-made ones,
that's just cola, innit?
They're nice
though. If I'm going to do the same thing as everyone else, I have to agree about the whole Pepsi Max Coke Zero debate. Pepsi Max any day of the week. It just reminds me of finishing off, having a day in this fucking Broughton swimming baths, getting a can of Pepsi Max from the vending machine, and off it pop out. That's my sort of nostalgia trip.
I remember the bottles of that Pepsi Max. You always got 20% extra for the same amount of price as well.
Yeah, exactly.
600 ml, aren't they?
You know, when you got a money mindset like me, boys.
But if we're going for general bottles, full fat Coke any day of the week, it's just a bottle of Pepsi just sounds disgraceful.
How's the question turned into bottles from cans?
Yeah, just stick to cans.
Why was it? Did we mention cans? I thought
we said primarily can, but we can delve into other avenues if we're feeling saucy.
I thought you just said Pepsi and Coke. I didn't realise cans was the main. I swear to God that never got mentioned.
Are we taking the litre bottles into account? Because they're different.
Take whatever you want into account. But, different.
I've got the glass bottle of Cokes are decent as well.
All right, before it gets out of control, I'll finish us off. For me, Coca-Cola
lovely.
Takes the win all day long. Obviously, Callum's about flavour. I think Coke's actually got a Pepsi's sweeter, but not as nice or refreshing. Pepsi's just, even though they both got the same amount of sugar in, Pepsi's like, we'll just make it sweet, and that's all we're going for.
I like sweet.
If I'm on holiday, I don't know. So, like, dead cold Coke with ice in the sun, I'd take Coke over Pepsi. And also, there's just,
easily.
I don't know, the brand isn't as good either, is it? Like, the can doesn't look as nice. And,
it's iconic.
And obviously, I drink more Diet Pepsi than Diet Coke just because my mum drinks loads of it. So it's all just because it's always in the house, I always have it. But I don't.
Fair enough.
Diet drinks weird me out anyway because they've got loads of like weird shit in them. Like
aspartame.
Nothing should taste that nice when it's got 2 calories in it. I don't trust it.
No.
But on that note, I'd like to end on the note of my soft drink conspiracies. I'd like to end everything there. I'd like to thank
again,
everyone.
If you are watching this far, because we know 99% of you are not. But
yeah, the two of you that have made it this stream Dissimulation by KSI now. Get it to number 1. Yeah.
Viva la Capital.
Right.
Sour communist.
Right.
Cheers, boys.
See you in a bit.
See you next week.
Bye.
See you later.
Au revoir.